Thanks. So I was once told by someone you should never ask questions in a presentation unless it's absolutely necessary. So trust me when I say this is important. Can you just put your hand up if you have used Mozilla Rhino? You know what it is? Just okay, cool. That's about what I thought. So in Java 8 we have a thing called Nashorn. The interesting thing about Nashorn, or JavaScript in general on JVM, is that it's not really new, not exactly. Nashorn, the name is German for rhino. It's like a pun by the people who named it, which I think is pretty funny. Mozilla Rhino is a project where you can interpret JavaScript in the JVM, and that's been in Java since Java 6, so that's it's a long time. So the journey to like what is Nashorn sort of begins with what is Rhino. The fascinating thing about just how long this has actually been around is it shocked me when I researched it. See if you can guess the date that Rhino was started, not completed and put in Java 6, but when it was first started. Never guess. 1990. You're going too far the other way. 1997. Right. 1997. People first started to say let's run JavaScript on the JVM. Safe to say it was a long time ago. So the concept isn't really new, which comes to the question of like what is Nashorn exactly. Just before we start that though, this is the sort of canonical basic example of what Rhino/Nashorn does. You create a thing called a script engine manager. You get a script engine from it, and then the engine evaluates like a JavaScript snippet or an object or a function. So that's pretty much what it is. So if that's been around since forever, what exactly is like new? Discussion of what's new starts with JSR 292. It was one of the more recent JSRs. It actually ended in Java 7. The title of it, supporting dynamically typed languages on the Java platform. Notice it doesn't say JavaScript, just dynamic language. Being a Java spec, it's going to be as general as possible. JSR 292 basically, I'll let you read that. Basically introduced a new JVM instruction. That's pretty much what it is, right? At the guts of it, it's a new JVM instruction called invoke dynamic. And you can see this taken directly from the JCP page, describes what they want to do. We will also investigate support for hot swapping, the capability to modify the structure of classes at runtime. That's the sort of bit that flies under the radar with people talking about Nashorn and stuff. I'll expand a bit on that. See, with Rhino, the code was interpreted. You write some JavaScript, it gets interpreted. What they're doing here with this JSR is to actually generate bytecode from your JavaScript. So you write JavaScript, but it actually runs on the JVM as standard bytecode. And you can change the JavaScript and hence the bytecode without reloading the JVM. That's the interesting thing for me. I assume everyone here has heard of JRebel. So you can reload Java, and like JRebel is really clever, but wouldn't it be more elegant if the hot swapping was built in the JVM? So to answer the question like what is Nashorn, essentially it's a re-implementation of those same JavaScript APIs that we saw in the code example, the ones that have been around forever. But it uses invoke dynamic, the thing from the JSR, instead of interpretation, which makes it a lot faster. It's also the JJS program, so Cons talked about that a little bit. If you don't know, JJS is basically a program that's included in Java 7 or 8, I can't remember, and the main features, you can run shell scripts on Linux, so you can actually, instead of running a bash program, you can script JavaScript, thanks to JJS, which I think is a bit better than bash. and there's JavaFX integration too. So you can write, little JavaFX program just using JavaScript, thanks to this JJS thing. That's what Nashorn is, like, in a literal sense. I think in a less literal sense, the avid.js project, which is technically not Nashorn, it's just its own project, but it's, it came out at the same time, and it uses Nashorn, and it's backed by Oracle, so you could sort of consider it like being part of Nashorn, even though it's not really. The last thing there that's philosophically important, the reason I say that is, Nashorn, apart from just being like a re-implementation of some APIs, it's philosophically important because it's like Oracle saying, hey, JavaScript is like, we think it's really important, we want to put like time and money into it, and we see that that's the direction that people want to go. So for me, again, that's it's an important thing, even though we have had JavaScript before this. Okay. Brief pause, sorry.
It's just died, has it?
This will learn me to be using cloud software. Just go back to writing everything in C, I say. Screw these. Still got the tiny versions.
It's true. Everything disconnect.
I just tether my own. Sorry about this, guys.
You are?
Okay, back in business. Okay, so in conclusion to that section, just to recap on what's the difference between the JSR spec and Nashorn the engine. Nashorn is a re-implementation of the APIs. The JSR spec is the JVM change. Technically, Nashorn couldn't really exist without JSR 392, or it would, but it would just be Rhino. The JSR, on the other hand, doesn't actually have anything to do with Nashorn, which isn't necessary. The vote dynamic itself, if you're interested in JVM backend stuff, is really interesting. Like I said before, it actually generates bytecode, which is sort of interesting. I used to program GWT, and when it came out, people sort of misunderstood what GWT did, and they thought that GWT generated like Java to bytecode to JavaScript or something. This is, as far as I know, the first actual JavaScript to bytecode generator, which is very interesting. It opens up the door as well for other dynamic languages, as hinted in the JSR spec, to be put on there. JavaScript's just the first one.
You've got Ruby utilize that in later versions. So JRuby.
Do they?
And Ruby, there's an invoke dynamic version.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there you go. That describes what Nashorn is. One, sentiment I hear a lot is, why the hell do we want to write JavaScript anyway? Like, JavaScript belongs in the browser. It's sort of assuming, the answer to this question. Why exactly do we want JavaScript anyway? Why do we care? There's not really one big reason, I think. There's lots of small reasons, and when you put them together, you look at the software world, it begins to make more sense than perhaps it does at the beginning. So the biggest thing for me is the development speed. You know, if you've got an application that you do take the effort to write on Nashorn, you can change the JavaScript code without reloading the JVM. That's pretty huge. It saves you a lot of time. Like I said, there's JRebel, but it's third party, it costs money. This is just better because it's built into the new JVM. Inter-team harmony, you know, if you've got a team with Java developers and JavaScript developers, there can often be like this, you know, bridge between them where neither one wants to go onto the other side at all. This sort of thing would help in that environment, I think. That's an environment I work in, and I could see myself using this at my work, you know, slowly, gradually, not just checking out the whole stack. And third, why JavaScript in the JVM? Because the JVM itself is great. You know, it's a solid, stable platform. You know, the JVM's, you know, how old? Like 1 million years compared to Node. It's just more big, more enterprisey, and more stable. Fourth reason, you know, why not? There's already a lot of other languages that run on the JVM. Why not have a general language that runs in the JVM? Why not have it supported by Oracle? The last thing, something about HR, JavaScript developers, talent pool, I don't know. You know, you could theoretically hire more people that could come work at your company. Cool. So that's what it is. You know, you now know what is Nashorn, what it's not, what was the JS spec, why do we want to write JavaScript. We saw the basic code example before. So let's just take a little look at how it actually works. So I've got here an embedded Jetty installation. It's very simple, you know, organic, homegrown recipe here, just the finest ingredients thrown in. It's not very big, you know, it's very simple. So it's all one file. What we do is we start up a server on port 8081. We tell it that in the request we're going to start a script engine manager, and then we're going to run a JavaScript file in the script engine manager. Just a little bit bigger, sorry. Then we just want to print whatever the JavaScript file tells us. Okay. I don't know why it logs in red, but you know. Here's the file. So we fire up our browser. Come here. We can see this, you know, earth-shakingly amazing application that returns a single string. You know, I don't have a really big, amazing Nashorn JavaScript application. This just to demonstrate like the very basics here. So that's great. What more can we do in terms of the actual, you know, writing an application? If you were to start from scratch, you know, writing a big proper application, what sort of things do you find yourself thinking? And for me, when I write Java code, I like to use Juice, dependency injection. So I thought a neat demo would be to show how, you know, if you did write something in JavaScript, how you don't have to ditch all of the existing Java tools or techniques that you like. So I've got a demo here, which is just the same application, put some more code inside the hello world JS file. It's an application that that runs some Java code, but it does it by creating the class with a Juice dependency injector. So this this code takes some explaining. There's several things going on here. One is that when you write code in Nashorn, they've got this thing, the Java importer. This keyword, if you're not familiar with it, it just puts that thing in scope inside the block. So you import an entire package, and that gives you a variable, and then you say with that variable, and then inside there, if you reference the class, it'll know what it is. So abstract module is something from Google inject. We can then create an injector. If you haven't used Juice before, don't worry. There's just a thing called an injector, and you can ask it for instances of classes. So then we're going to ask for an instance of this thing called my class, which is hiding here in the classes package. So what we're going to do, right, is we're going to create this class, create an object from this class, use it in JavaScript with the Juice dependency injector. So I've got this super important, Java enterprise stuff that you might need to use. It does really great, important Java things, like print messages. But the point is that, the reason you might need to do this is you might have like existing Java code, whether or not it uses dependency injection, that you might need to use in your JavaScript application that you decided to write, because Nashorn is so cool. So, by the way, I thought a neat demo would be to see what this code looks like in Java. So what's the language difference? So I'll show you that really quickly before I run it. Create different font sizes. Okay, so abstract module is an abstract class. So in Java, you should all be comfortable what that looks like. The way that you do it in Nashorn is you say java.extend, then the class, and you implement it in a vaguely similar way. You actually give it a JavaScript object to implement the methods, which is pretty neat. The rest of the code looks almost the same, except that the injector takes a class. So how do you get a class in JavaScript? They give you this thing, java.type. Right, so that's it. That's just a nice little comparison of what the same Java code looks like. Cool, so now essentially the same thing. We're going to make a request, it's going to run this code, but it's all being created by Juice. Inside Java. Just to prove that it's running on the server, I've printed my environment variables. Amazingly interesting. And you can see that the injector's created the big important Java class behind the scenes, and it's instantiated all the stuff. So in real life that would be like database connectors or whatever. That's the basics of how you can build a web application using Nashorn. Of course, if you're going to do this, you wouldn't really do it from scratch. You wouldn't just write an entire framework from the ground up like this. Which is where the Avatar project comes in. Avatar is an all-in-one web project containing the same. That's terrible. I'll explain the left-hand side. So Avatar generates basically everything. It generates all of the client-side files. You implement the server with JavaScript, and inside that JavaScript, they've exposed a whole bunch of things that you can use. they've got implementation of a whole bunch of Node modules. So that doesn't mean that Node itself is running here. All it means is they've taken the Node namespace and made it so that if you copy and paste some JavaScript into Avatar, that it'll find those modules, and they've implemented them in Java to make sure that they behave about the same. But they don't have everything implemented, just got a subset. They've got a list of what they have implemented, and we'd expect that it would grow by the day. So Avatar itself is currently only supported on Glassfish, so if you want to use it, you actually use Glassfish. They've got a whole bunch of demos. I'm just going to jump into one of the demos and we'll just look at some code, look at how it works. So because it's a framework, like all the stuff that I showed you about, the Java servlet and the script engine manager and stuff, that's all gone in Avatar. That's how it works under the covers. But you pretty much just write JavaScript and it magically runs inside a web container. So they take care of all the routing and history management and everything like that. So let's just sort of have a look at what are the demos look like. So this demo application I'm going to show you is just a simple chat server. So all of the Avatar applications, they arrange themselves into service, which is like the stuff that runs on the server, and what they call the view, which is the client. So this is like your classic front-end, back-end. If you're a JavaScript developer, you'd feel really comfortable inside the view folder doing whatever you need to do, and then in the service folder, we can start to see, hopefully it's big enough, the type of stuff that goes on. So
Can you make that big?
I could. What size? Where?
Level plus, command plus.
Yep. So, the first thing that's challenging about working with Avatar is you don't actually know by looking at code that it's on the client side of the server, which is kind of confusing. So the require at the top might look familiar if you've ever done any JavaScript work. So there is like a module loader that's built into Avatar, and they give you a whole bunch of standard things, like if you want to create a WebSocket service, it's just there for you. And then it proceeds to go on to detail what the WebSocket will do. So this is handy because normally you have to go find your own WebSocket server implementation and the client libraries for it if you're writing JavaScript, but it's all just there for you. So what we'll do is we'll just fire up this application. It's just some of the client-side code. So I was going to get Con to chat with me, but given the unreliable internet, what I'll do is I'll just chat with myself in two different browser windows, and you can pretend like I have friends. So the list of example applications in Glassfish, in Avatar for Glassfish is quite impressive. There's like 20 or something. They're quite detailed. This is just one of them. Cool. So what we're going to do is we'll log in. Say Jason logged in. Great.
Do you want control plus that little bit?
Wow, did both windows. That was unexpected in a good way. Right. So yeah, good little example app. You know, it's not like Facebook, but it's a nice example of the sort of thing that you want to do. It's like a modern HTML application. It's got a WebSocket. It's got a server implementation. You can do a bunch of stuff, and you can see that the code for it, you know, is really quite friendly, especially if you're a JavaScript developer, compared to, you know, having to sort of have all the overhead of like not just the Java code, but the concept of like the servlet and the web server and stuff. With this, you know, you could just give someone Glassfish, tell them to put all this code there, and then they have the same fast development cycle that they've got with the browser, where you can change some JavaScript code, refresh the page, and everything's how it should be, instead of having to restart the JVM or bring in some heavy solution like JRebel. So that's the basics of Avatar.
Just on that note too, I saw this really cool demo last year where if you use NetBeans, you can actually just change the code so that index HTML don't even have to refresh. There's like a browser plugin for Chrome Firefox, for example. So you can make those, you would just type in there and start going, oh, you've changed this file, and just start trying to update the DOM.
That reminds me as well that there is Ide Support for Nashorn. I think it started with NetBeans, but if I'm not mistaken, all the major IDEs, so Eclipse and IntelliJ, have it as well. So you can, you know, set breakpoints and stuff inside this JavaScript code, which is really good. So you know, a thorough journey into how to actually write these applications is like a whole nother talk. But I hope that I've shown you, you know, what is Nashorn, why do we like JavaScript, and a brief introduction to Avatar and why it could be good for where I develop. Close it. Thanks. Node, JavaScript, meaning of life. Anything?
I wanted to ask with regard to the require stuff. So over there you're bringing in all Glassfish avatars. Is that just because you're using WebSockets specific to the covered avatar? Is that?
Yeah, this is sort of like a general bootstrap thing. So they give you, you basically start every application like this. So it gives you like a basic library to start with on the client and on the server as well.
So could I actually take a Node application unmodified, a server-side one at least?
You could. If that application didn't encounter any Node modules which hadn't fully been converted.
Right.
They've even got a list of applications which they've tested. One is Express. So if you've heard of Express, Express.js or Express.io or something, that will run purportedly without modification. The interesting thing about the Node integration is that the whole project used to be called like Node something. Node.
It was actually Node.jar.
Node.jar, yeah, that was it. And then they changed the name, and now the project page doesn't really have much reference to Node at all. This is purely speculation on my part, but
Actually, I do know the reason.
you do know. Oh, that's better than my speculation. You tell me.
So the lawyers that run Node, the company's Joyant, and they're, I guess, the shell company that looks after Node. They basically said, screw off, we're not going to let you. So they wanted another name. It's just to get out of the way of the lawyers and they have a big legal battle.
Insert generic joke about lawyers here. Yeah, so you know, I thought it was because they didn't really weren't that keen on the direction. Like, I think it's slightly gimmicky, the Node integration. That's my personal controversial opinion. For the main reason that, like, if you normally write Node code, you're going to look at this and be like, what? You know, why would I want to do this? It's stupid. You'd think it was curiously interesting, but you'd basically not really have a compelling reason to go do it because why would you? Why wouldn't you just keep writing Node code? I just think that Node developers wouldn't be that interested, and Java developers won't have any Node code, because the Java developers. So I just think that it's cool, you know, it's really neat, but I think practically speaking, if you were going to write an application from scratch, you'd mostly not really be using many Node modules. And the value of converting an entire application just so you can run it on a JVM seems dubious. So I don't know.
Really what about, like, I suppose the JVM case is, you know, scalability and then, you know, performance factor.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Nashorn's still quite new, but it's, it will get better over time. So, you know, those aspects to it that they've got going for it.
Yeah.
I was really curious about that because in the first community notes about Avatar, they were like, oh yeah, once it's like 100% compatible, and then, you know, later in it's like when it got to 99% compatible, you know, still just how real that was. And I know bits were re-implemented in Java to run JVM for performance stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to actually know, could I bring in Node modules and have them try to work? And, you know, is it just specific to the ones that they're supported on that Avatar.js page?
Yeah, they've got a page. I mean, in terms of just using stuff verbatim, it's very similar to how GWT works. So GWT translates Java code to JavaScript, and a lot of people ask the same thing, like, oh great, can I take this Java library, convert it and run it in a browser? And the answer is that you can, as long as every single thing used by that Java code is emulated perfectly by GWT. And for most real-world applications, it's not the case that it's 100% there.
Yeah.
And so the value of it.
It's kind of like having I don't know, the GCC Java, like you're running a different JVM and running into small capabilities.
Yep. So these are some Node modules that you could just run them. So you call them from inside Nashorn. Yeah, technically that's right. Inside Avatar, and they would work the same that they would do in Node. Minor issues, Greeks, bar, buffer, something, you know. And these are some of the more popular, larger projects which use Node that they think will run mostly. Express.js, so that could be interesting. But the real value, I think, is in the core Avatar packages, stuff like, you know, making a WebSocket for you. Like, you don't need a Node module to do that. It's better to have them write it. Yeah, but certainly very interesting. It's early days for Avatar. I think with Oracle behind it, and this whole Java 8 Nashorn thing, that it could be a viable way to run proper, you know, enterprise applications.
Yeah. I think a lot of people actually try to move away, not use Avatar, but try and get the required stuff just working as Node as well. There's plenty of people GitHub projects kicking around. So that'll be interesting to see over the next few months. How that goes. Are there any other questions for Jason? This feels a bit weird.
It's like some sort of fake television show. Does anyone have questions? And it's totally stacked.
So you can't just chuck in any, you know, JavaScript module that you might have lying around and get it to work, can you?
If you wrote that module to run in the browser, then yes, it's very likely to work, with the exception that set timeout and set interval have this like weird hacky patch thing that you have to do because the model was totally different. But if you never wrote anything that used set timeout and it was originally run in the browser, it would very likely just run in here.
So basically, which ECMAScript standard does it support?
5.1. So,
5.1.
yep, I looked that up. can't tell me to. But I'll show you this page really quickly because the answer to that question's like one of those questions that like is simple on the surface but really complicated if you look at it a little bit, because so they support ECMAScript, right, which is a standard. Then there's JavaScript, which is technically a Mozilla thing that contains customized extensions to ECMAScript. So what Nashorn did, just to make things complicated, is they said, right, well, we're going to have Nashorn be ECMAScript 5.1 standard, easy to understand, but we're going to randomly take a few, not even all of them, just like a few features from JavaScript 1.7, just like sprinkle them in so that you could use them.
So if I have a Rhino project and want to use Nashorn, it could be difficult at some point.
If you've taken advantage of all of the JavaScript extensions that are in it,
There's a lot of stuff there's a Nashorn mailing list, Nashorn dev, run on the JDK in there. There's a lot of discussion on that kind of incompatibilities and how to deal with them. So if you have issues, you can put a question there and it'll pretty put all the project leads of Nashorn and all the developers are on that answering questions.
Load. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so you can do interesting stuff. So these are the extensions. This is familiar if you've written Java, right? In JavaScript, it's quite special. You've never had this, in JavaScript. So you can conditional catch clauses. You can do this funky, like really short declaration of a function. Proper for each expressions. So again, if you don't write JavaScript all the time, that might not look very special. This for each, but normally you have to use for each as a function on the array. So it's like array.for each, or you can go for bar in, which is retarded because it mixes in all the function prototype properties. So this is like nice and clean. It's really good as an extension. So you got, I won't go through every single one, but there's a bunch of stuff that they've added on top of ECMAScript 5.1. So yeah, if you've got code that you want to convert, it could be hard.
It does work with lambdas as well, and there's a lot of syntax helpers to declare functions in a closer way to the lambda, where you put your braces and stuff. So where you just get caught out with a lambda and a slight difference with lambda and JavaScript ways of defining the functions, where you put the parameters and stuff like that is a bit more flexible. And you can switch off all these extensions as well. So if you wanted to run a really, really secure JavaScript platform, all the Java extensions you can disable. So if you were running JJS, you can pass in flags like no script or something, and it switches off all these things and doesn't pollute namespace with a lot of stuff.
So that load is like the built-in version of require. And there's one. Just go and fetch a script for you.
Yeah. Cool. That's very important. And does it take callbacks after load foo?
Oh, it's synchronous.